Well, hey, and welcome to the Becoming Better podcast. My name's Nate, and I'm so glad you're here. On today's episode, we sit down with Tim Dunsing, who spoke this last Sunday. And if you haven't listened to last Sunday's message, I want to encourage you to stop here and give that a listen, as that will help make this conversation make more sense to you. Well, in this episode, we dive into what Tim would have added if he had a little bit more time, and we also dive into the heart of the issue of giving and serving. If you'd like to find out more ways to serve, you can go to quadcity.church/serve, and you can fill out a form, and we'd love to get you plugged in. Well, without further ado, we hope you enjoy this conversation. Good afternoon, everybody.
Happy Monday, Nate.
Happy Monday.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. All right.
I'm always here on Monday.
Yes,
sir.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Well, you
you're not
just
all-
moved your one meeting to Mondays here.
That's true.
Yeah. So now
Yeah.
you will be for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
And then Tuesday mornings, and then we need to get you in office
Yeah.
again.
Tuesday evenings.
Yeah.
Nothing like serving.
Yeah.
There's just
Occasional
nothing
Thursday.
like
Yeah.
serving.
Well, before we dive in, I have a question for you too.
For
So,
who? For me, David, and also
yeah.
Pastor Elder Dr. Tim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
So, as the three of us are musicians, you guys are way better than I am, but I love music. My question to you guys is, what is your number one band or musician that you would tell like somebody else about? Like, hey, you should listen to these guys if you aren't.
Well, I'll tell you, recently, I've kind of rediscovered the English progressive rock band Yes.
Okay.
And so if you listen to their lead guitar player,
Mhm.
it's a fellow named Steve Howe. I don't know if there's a better guitar player
It's
ever.
high praise. High
Yeah.
praise.
I don't know that there is.
Yes used to get their guitar work done at this place in Edgewater in Central Florida. Edgewater's near Orlando. Oh my gosh, what was the name of that guitar shop? I can't remember, but there were photos of them everywhere because they would always come to that shop whenever they were in Florida. Random factoid that doesn't answer any of the questions that you asked. But yes.
So that's
Good band.
one. And then
Yeah.
the other one that I can think of right off the top of my head is a fellow named Terry Kath,
Okay.
who was the lead guitar player for Chicago,
Mhm.
who came to a tragic ending. He was playing Russian roulette and he got the bullet.
Yeah.
That's
Ugh.
extraordinary.
And Jimi Hendrix said about him, Terry Kath plays riffs I can't play.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
Not messing
So-
around.
What about you, David?
Oh, brother, I am real bad at favorites. Real bad at favorites. But I can give you some oddball, maybe some off the wall stuff.
Yeah.
There's a band. I don't even think they exist anymore. I'm pretty sure they don't. That I started listening to in the early 2000s. They're from New Zealand. They were this singer-songwriter and then like kind of a rotating band of musicians, drums, violin, horns. And they play this kind of off-the-wall, almost, it's really hard to describe. It has a circus music feel to it, but it's musically very interesting.
Yeah.
Name of the band is Martin Martini and the Bone Palace Orchestra.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just extraordinary songwriting and weird
Yeah.
stuff. Like, so I love those guys. They're interesting. I listened to there's an album called Dream Until You Die that I've probably listened to 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And it's just unique and weird and interesting. In terms of like, who's an extraordinary musician that I would point people towards, that just gets so hard. There's so many
Yeah.
people who are
Mhm.
just so great. And when
That's
you get
so
into
true.
and when you get into the realm of like gifted, virtuoso guitar players, it's like it's like, what mood are you in today?
Mm.
You know what I mean? You've got your Dream Theater, and you've got your Rush, I mean, and like, good grief. There's so many that like I get bottlenecked trying to think about who the great guitar. Pete Thorne, he's a session player who's played for a million different bands, is this amazing, amazing guitar player, right? And compared to the famousness level of other guitarists, like not, but he's a session guy, right? He's on all of these recordings, right? There's a number of guys like that who are unsung heroes in the public eye, who as musicians are probably just some of the best that ever lived. And then you think about classics, right? So I'm a classically trained musician, even though I don't use much of my classical training for the type of music that I play. And I think of, the great composers, right? That are timeless, and you could just go back and listen to. I mean, Beethoven never gets old. Like, it just doesn't. The genius doesn't diminish over time. Anyway, I could be a nerd about that stuff forever, but like I said, bad at favorites. If I'm putting a CD on, it's not because they're the greatest musician in the world. It's because it's interesting and weird.
Yeah. For me, I would say it's Manchester Orchestra.
Okay. Yeah.
They're a good band, good albums to just put on and do work. So it's just like more music-esque. And then the next one, Postal Service.
Okay,
That I was talking to Brett because we were talking about music, and I was like, "Hey, have you heard of the Postal Service in Manchester?" And he's like, "No." So I was like, "You should give it a listen." So he came back and was like, "Yeah, those are good musicians." So, Timmy, welcome to the podcast. My next kind of banter question is to kind of get to know you. The last time you were on the show, it's 1 year ago. So, a lot of people kind of know who you are, seeing you on bass, but would love to give you a little bit. And then even yesterday, Jason introduced you as all these hats and roles that you have had here at Quad City. So just kind of give us a little bit about who is Tim. Let's first start off with who's your beautiful bride.
Yeah. So I'm married for 40 years. That's 40 years, 4 decades to Stephanie. We just celebrated that, and just so cool. So, it's great to be married to your best friend.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's so cool.
I'm grateful for that. I've been at Quad City for a dozen years or so, maybe 13.
Okay.
Jason might even remember. I kind of forget.
Yeah.
Because I kind of drifted in here. It was sort of a slow process.
Yeah.
I was actually helping the worship team for a while and going to a different church. And then eventually got hired on here, and then eventually was ordained as a pastor here, which was kind of crazy and kind of sort of came out of the blue, that call to do that. It was actually shocking, to be honest. It could only have come from God, I guess.
Yeah.
So I've been here when not too long after Jason came.
Yeah.
Right up until now. So as I'm a physician and worked in the emergency room, and so when COVID started up again, and back in 2020, and who can forget that?
Yeah.
I ended up going back and practicing medicine full time in the ER for 2.5 years during that pandemic.
Yeah.
So eventually, when I came out of that, then that's when I stepped on the eldership here.
Yep.
And I've been there ever since.
Yeah. And then you, Tim, I just love hanging out with you and just getting to know more and more of you, who you are. And you just are very wise, and love that you don't just stop there. You're also on a couple boards, right? You're just so busy.
Yeah, I got, yeah, I am. So I'm on the UCYC board, sit on that. I'm also on the CTO board, which is our personal discipleship process that we use in this church. I sit on that board also. So grateful to be able to give whatever little wisdom I have for those activities and this church.
Yeah. So, and then kids.
So I've got 3 kids. I got 2 daughters, both in their 30s. And between them, we have 4 grandkids. And then I have a son who's still single. He lives down in Tempe, and he's 30 years old. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
my kids are old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in the season of being a grandpa. How's that going? What are some fun things about that?
Well, 2 nights before I did this sermon, we did a spimba night in the backyard.
Yeah.
We set up a tent out there, and my 4 and 5-year-old grandkids had their first outdoor spimba night. So needless to say, I didn't sleep a whole lot that night. They were pretty restless. Although they said they never woke up and they loved it, I know that they were all over the place in there, and I kept putting them back in their sleeping bag and all of that stuff. So, I'm still kind of a kid in that way.
Yeah.
I love adventures. I love doing adventures and different things. And when you have grandkids, you get to start all over again on the adventure track. So it's great. Yeah.
That's awesome. So cool. Sweet. Well, let's jump in. David, what stuck out to you here at the Prescott campus?
Yeah, man. A couple of things. It was a great weekend. Just from an evaluative standpoint, man, I thought people were really engaged and locked in to the message, which is cool. 3 things. Let me do 3 things. And they're in no particular order. So one of the things that, oftentimes Lisa, my wife, and I serve together on a Sunday. So we listen to the message 3 times, right? And, by the time we get home, we've both used up all of our words for the day. So it's like we're not necessarily talking about the service very much. But we got home at different times. She got home a little bit before me because she didn't serve this weekend. And her and the girls were getting ready for lunch. And like I had stopped at Trader Joe's and got some stuff. And we were just chatting about the service and about the message. And she said, Tim said something that just really stuck with me today. And I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it was, we believe that Jesus is coming back. You should live like he's coming back, right? It's essentially a paraphrase of what you said. And live like you believe that is what that was the part of it that stuck out to her. Live like you believe that, not live like that, that's true, but that it's actually an eventuality that you have to prepare for. So that was cool. That piece stuck out to me. Another thing that stuck out to me from the weekend is just you have a speaking style where you can say some very hard, challenging things, and they don't necessarily sound as sharp as they would from a different communicator, right? There's an ease and a confidence in your speaking that puts people a little bit more at home maybe than they would expect, depending on what they're hearing. So that was cool. And then, oh my goodness, I have a third thing that I'm sure will come out in our conversation, because I remember it was exactly before we started recording. I was about to dive into something, and I was like, "Oh, let's not waste that. Let's save it for the podcast." And I've forgotten what it was, so we'll come back to it in a minute. Yeah. But thing number 3, as yet unscripted. And we'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, just the idea of, and we kind of talked about this earlier, Tim, of, we're a rich community in the sense of just overall worldly. And that was interesting seeing, the top 1% and the top 10% and realizing how much of us, on a Sunday morning fit in that top 10%, when we do all the math and bring everything together. But the part in 1 Timothy 6:18, where you circled the and you kind of hit on, serving, that really stuck out to me, because I feel like in this day and age, a lot of us kind of sit in one or either camp. We either feel like we're not financially stable enough and we're not rich enough, so we're going to give back to the church in the term of serving the church, which is great. And then there's other people in the other camp where they feel more financially stable and they feel, hey, I can't serve, so I'm just going to throw money at the church. But Paul's telling Timothy, like, hey, you need to do both. So that really stuck out to me and was more of a, like, I think a lot of our people need to hear that you can't do one, you got to do both. So I thought that was great.
I'm really glad I forgot what I was going to say, because that's what I was going to say. So I'm glad I didn't steal your thunder.
Perfect. Yeah. So I thought overall great message, and it's just so cool to have you, Tim, as a person that worked for the church and then is now serving the church as an elder, to also be able to get on stage and speak, and just kind of, it was just a great morning. So I thought you did a great job, Tim. My first question to you, Tim, is I ask all of our speakers, if I could have given you 10 more minutes and getting to work with you, Tim, on this manuscript, I know how much you had to cut to fit in your time. What would you have added back in if I gave you 10 more minutes?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is a couple things. Maybe the first is like following up on what you guys were just saying about doing good. You know, when you preach a message and money's a part of it, that's the only thing people hear.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
They don't hear. And so I didn't spend a lot of time on the doing good, on the being rich in good deeds is the language Paul uses. And so I think it would have been nice to unpack that a little more. But the place that obviously has the hold on people's hearts is their money. So that's where you have to sort of spend your time. Another thing I might have done is answer the objection about context a little bit, because it's one thing to have $100,000 in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's another thing to have $100,000 in the United States.
Yeah,
and
certainly
your money goes a lot further there than it would here. So you could spend some time unpacking that.
Yeah.
But it still comes down to the issue of, do I have more than I need? And when I'm thinking about that next thing I want, how is that the right way to steward, the money that God has given me? So that's one thing. And then the other thing I would say is I mentioned when I was giving a little tiny personal testimony, about wealth being uncertain.
Yeah.
Well, I experienced that because, there's a story there that I didn't tell in the message because there just wasn't enough time for that. And so the story goes like this. So my bachelor's degree was in electrical engineering. And so that's might be new to some people. And then I went to med school after that. And after I got out of med school, I did my training in internal medicine, and I started working. And I got invited to be a part of a software business, a startup. So we were developing computer systems for digital imaging, which was a new thing. This is in the early 90s. The digital imaging was a new thing. And then we were using speech recognition to generate medical reports. And so I was a part of a company that started up, and we were an original equipment manufacturer, an OEM. We built computers and software and sold them through the Olympus Corporation. So that's Olympus from Japan that makes cameras, but they also make medical instruments and stuff too. So it was very successful. And we grew this company. We bootstrapped it. We didn't have any outside investors. I was an owner in this thing. And we grew this thing to a $10 million a year company. We had 100 employees. We were making money like crazy. And so, one thing led to another. There was a lot of bad decision-making going on. I was in a state of greed because I thought, I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. But I'm going to give some to God, I'm going to share some. I was trying to kind of hedge my bets there a little bit. And then through a series of circumstances that take too long to explain, the thing crashed. And we had signed a line of credit for $5 million. And it was called joint and several. That means everybody who signs this thing is equally liable for all of it.
Yeah.
We spent all the money on the line, and the bank called the note. Now, they hadn't I didn't have much money then. It wasn't my money that caused the bank to give us one of those line of credits. So anyway, they called the note, and I'm faced with the prospect of losing everything. And I was living in Kansas at the time, and in Kansas, if you have to declare bankruptcy, they won't take your home away. Mm-hmm. Not every state does that, but that was there. So I pour all the extra money I have into my house.
Yeah,
I got 2 little kids at home, and I got a bank breathing down my neck.
Wow.
And so for me, that's the uncertainty of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw at that point too, I had just become a Christian a year or 2 before that. And I saw the harm that greed does to my soul and to people that were around me.
Yeah.
And so when I read that wealth is uncertain, I go, it sure is. You know what's not uncertain? Your relationships with your family and your friends and your brothers and sisters in Christ too.
Yeah.
And so that's what sort of pulled me through all that, that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have, had I had a little extra time, I might have told that story because I think stories help.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of personalize things. And it's like, that's why I said, this is for me too.
Well, yeah. There's always the potential for someone to have the perspective of that's easy for you to say.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're a rich doctor. And
that's always going to be anytime, right? When you're trying to have accountability, right? From a storyteller or from a preacher perspective, right? That's easy for you to say. Well, you don't understand. Actually, it wasn't easy for me to say. It took a really long time and a lot of lessons to get to that point.
Yeah.
And that humanizes you as a person and gives us more insight and go, okay, yeah. I would have loved for you to have time for that. I understand why it had to hit the cutting room floor, but yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too is about needs. Mm-hmm. What are our needs? I know people that make a lot of money that outspend their income.
Mm.
You can always outspend your income, except for a handful of people in this country. You can always spend more than you make. And I know people that make high 6-figure incomes that can barely make payments and they're scratching along just because they don't have any the only perspective they have is treasures on earth.
Yeah.
That's their only perspective.
And that's an interesting just thought of how we as humans and I'm sure it's not just an American thing, but in with the American lens, how the culture tells us to spend and the culture tells us to put it on the credit card.
Right. So Glenn unpacked that.
Yeah.
He
sure
unpacked
did. Yes.
The culture of, our consumer culture, creating needs and wants through all this advertising that's like never ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just nuts how we don't see it until we're on the other side and we're hurting. So
because what's interesting, right? You think from the marketing and advertising perspective, right? Like how many, even on just Hulu with ads or whatever you're watching, how many of those ads are for a new $58,000 vehicle?
Yeah.
And those ads are not pointed only at someone who can afford a $900 a month car payment.
Yeah.
They're pointed at everybody. And the hope is that those, even whether or not you can quote unquote afford it, would want it enough to go get it.
Yeah.
Would create that fear of missing out or that perceived need to the point where it goes, well, no, I actually do need this.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, like you said, an actual need. It is perceived one.
Well, and another thing that that occurs to me too is Paul talks about life that is truly life. So if you do this stuff, you get life that's truly life. I think we have a really hard time thinking that if I say no to myself, that's going to make me happy or joyful. That is a learned thing that every disciple of Jesus has to struggle with.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's always a negative for me if I have to do something, if I have to follow a command. And so we don't believe that it's true because it goes against our original sin or, our sin nature kind of a thing. So just that life that's truly life.
Yeah.
Would it really?
Yeah. That denial of desire can sometimes be not just a good thing, but a best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it leads to a place
Yeah.
of joy and contentment. I mean, and so you can say those words, and I did, but I don't, I think that's really hard. That's a really hard thing for people to get their head around.
Yeah. And so for me personally, I love technology, and it's a slippery slope of a thing to love because in 6 months it's old.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
so true.
So
Yep.
when I got turned 18, Apple phones were coming out, every 6 months, and I was like, I want the new phone. So I kept and phone companies and Apple are smart, and they're like, hey, pay us this much every month, and we can get you the new phone. So I was like, yeah. So I was doing that for years, and it wasn't until 4 or 5 years ago where I was like, this is a sin for me. Like, I'm lusting after this technology, and it's
costing me $800 every time I blink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I finally told myself, like, hey, I can't do this as long as my phone still works and I can go a whole day with it charged, and even if I can't go a whole day with it charged, like, as long as
you only
it's
get
still
3
working,
weeks of that, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it was something that I had to tell myself, like, I'm gonna stop this because, I can tithe more, I can do more things with the money I'm just chucking at Apple, and not to say they're not coming out with great technology, but I needed to, rein that in.
But they're
and check
also
my heart.
They're selling FOMO.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
That's the.
Yes.
I had a conversation with a guy this past week, and it was about, I like to play like collectible card games, right? And I was talking to this guy at the game store in town, because there's a couple different pre-releases coming up. He was asking if I was going to come to him, and I was like, actually, like I feel like I'm not even being asked to spend money on this thing that I like. I feel like it's become spend money on this thing just so you don't miss out on what other people are doing. And I was like, I actually, first of all, I'm like, budget's really tight anyway. But even then, I'm like, I'm actually not interested in spending money on FOMO right now.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Yeah.
Like I play this game or these games because I enjoy doing it, not because I have to be up on the latest and greatest. And if I don't get that, then it's not going to satisfy. And, it's like, so there's in every category, right? In our hobbies, in our, like, even in, like I said, the perceived needs, the car and the home, and like things that are important, and the quality of the food that you eat, right? Your Whole Foods versus Aldi, right? Do we even have Aldi's in Arizona?
I wish we did.
Yeah,
I don't. There are a few down in Phoenix.
We're about to.
Yeah.
We're about to have one in Prescott Valley.
Yep.
Let's go. Because I used to love that. I lived at the Aldi in Sanford, Florida. But, where it's some of what we're buying into is a hype machine, is a promise of something that it's definitely not going to deliver on.
Yeah. And if I had even more time, another thing I would talk about is time generosity more. So I didn't spend much time on that, just like for the reason I just said, because people are focused on the money part of things. But it's not like, we need people who are willing to serve in almost every area of this church. And you guys can speak to that.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
I think we both had a thought at the same time. So
that is truly one area, kind of my testimony has been how the church has kind of come into my life. Parents got divorced when I was young, so mom threw us in church, and I had a lot of good volunteer. The pastors on staff were great as well. But I had a lot of volunteers that just came into my life and were able to pick me up and teach me
that's so good.
just how to be a godly man and teach and just come alongside me through high school and college years to where I've kind of realized like, oh, I want to give that back. So for me personally, it was more of a, I'm going to give my time. And it's one of those tricky things for me because, I get the opportunity to work here, which I love. But then I've decided to volunteer with the high schoolers. And that's the way I'm giving back to the church. So I think, we just need more of that, more of just godly men, more godly women pouring into students and even just on the tech team and just serving the church on a regular basis.
I think I'll share my anecdote, and then I think we can camp out and talk about this from a big picture perspective for a little bit.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's probably 15 people in the greater Prescott area who know my testimony and my testimony of my marriage, and I'm not going to spend all that time on that. But one of the things that helped connect me to the local church was giving of my time. Right? When my wife and I came back to the church after a long time away, it was because we chose to get involved on teams that we were able to connect with people. And from connecting with people, we were able to step into deeper relationships. Then we were able to get into groups, and we were able to have mentors. We weren't even calling mentors at the time, right? It's not like everybody thinks of it that way.
Yeah.
But there were men of God who came alongside me because of my engagement in giving of my time to serve that connected me to the church and to the body in a way that I don't know how it could have happened another way for me, right? Being willing to serve with the thing that I'm passionate about, which is making music. At the time, it was the only thing I was passionate about, right? There's a lot more to life now, is what connected me to the body in a life-changing way. And I think a lot of times people underestimate the value of that. Not that there's just this need that the global church has, the Big C church has for people to be willing to serve, but that by serving, you connect to the body of Christ in a unique way that can actually change your life. And I think that's maybe an ingredient that we miss quite a bit in just the way that we, and when I say we, I don't mean any person in particular. I don't even mean this church. I just mean Christians in general talk about serving, is that your willingness to be generous of your time can begin to foment a humility in you that I think is unique that only comes from serving other people, right? Just like a generosity can be created in you when you give of your wealth that isn't going to happen if you don't, right? It is created in a unique way. And so for me, I think it's essential. The serving other people is such an important marker of what it means to be a disciple of Jesus that like it is absolutely invaluable to the life of a believer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So good. Yeah. And I can tell you, I'm often a problem on not just in this room, but
I'm often a problem.
I was a problem when I was an unbeliever because that was the first time I stepped forward to serve.
Sure.
And I stepped forward to serve on a worship team. And they allowed that. And I wasn't like leading or anything, but I was on the team. And I can tell you that was a key piece. The text of those songs got in my soul. And it really was important for me to come to Christ. So just a person who's kind of dipping their toe in is not too sure about this Christian thing, I don't know. That's where I was.
Yeah.
As a younger guy. And so that serving thing and those people that you were just talking about that pour into you, those were the people that I came around, and they were like me. They were musicians and, kind of thin-skinned and whiny, kind of like me,
A problem occasionally.
Sometimes people call it a problem.
Yeah.
And so I I think it is so critical. And I think there's a piece, if you're not serving with your time, then that's a heart issue. So you can your money is part of your heart, but your time is another treasure, another key part of your heart. So if you're not giving your time, there's a piece of your heart that you're holding back.
It's so funny.
So I think that's an important thing to remember.
Yeah.
You know, it's because that's giving away a piece of yourself.
Yep.
I don't know if we've ever used this language here, but I know it could have been something I heard here, but it's definitely something I've heard in other contexts. This idea of like the little kid who's holding the one thing they're not supposed to have behind their back. But in front, they're giving away this thing that they know for sure they're supposed to give away. It's that same picture, your time and your money, right? These two different pictures of resources that we're given that are both valuable, and we're supposed to surrender them both. It can be like, God, no. Look at how good I'm giving. Don't worry about how much time I'm. No, it's not. I'll go up to 30%. God,
Yeah.
look at this. Watch. That's got to make up for this time that I'm not using. Or God, I'm here 6 days a week. God, look at this. Look at how many days a week I'm here. Don't think about the fact that my finances are completely unavailable to you. That's not. You don't need to worry about that. I've got this right here.
Yeah.
And there's this piece of that text that you were in where it's like, no, actually, it's an and.
It's
Yeah.
an and.
It's an and. They're both just as important.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you guys is what's the question? Like, how do our people process through and truly look at both and see where they're at with it? Because it's a huge heart issue, but how do our people look at it, and what are some of the steps, or what would you recommend?
Well, one thing I would say, I always have something to say, but one thing I would say is that if you're defended on those two things, you need to consider that you might be wrong. I mean, it's like, well, this is what the Bible says, and I'm being honest about what I'm doing. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of amounts and all of that stuff, I can't.
Yeah.
Who can judge that stuff? Every person has to do that for themselves.
Yep.
But there's a place where you have to. It's honest self-reflection that says, "Yeah, I'm giving, but I'm not serving," or "I'm serving, but I'm really not doing that. I'm not doing what I could.
Yeah.
I'm wrong about this." That humility piece is just so big to go, and that's in messages like this that are difficult, you don't kind of want to hear those because you love your time and you love your money. That's what's hard. And you're justified. You justify yourself. I'm self-justified. I have very good reasons for what I do. Like I do what I do.
Yeah. And the big thing is, I feel like if it was in the Bible and it said exactly like give 3 days of your time and
but the 4th day is free.
Yeah. And 15% of your income, I feel like we would all be like, oh, we can do that.
Yeah, we want the rules.
Exactly.
We want those rules.
Yep.
Yes, because they give us a line. They give us a line to go up to.
Yep.
That's the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're Pharisees.
Yep.
When there's that, I'm better than you because I crossed the line.
Yep. So I think for sure, checking with your heart. And I love the way, and I can't remember who said it, but it might have been Jason, it might have been Joe, but the fact of your discipleship groups have, shown, look, this is what I've been making, and this is how I've been spending it. And just having that accountability with that. So I would say if you're in a discipleship group, take that hard step and tell your discipleship group, like, hey, like maybe show your screen time on your phone and maybe even your calendar and what's it filled with. And then maybe your finances. So
yeah, that's a scary thing.
it is.
It's a scary thing.
So
the last thing to be converted is your wallet, right?
Isn't that crazy?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we already did banter, but this actually connects. This connects in a really interesting way. This is not tangential. My wife told me a couple of days ago, this person who I went to college with, who we were friends in college, her husband who is not a believer. Okay, so this is not a family of faith. Made an altruistic donation. So there's this secular humanist kind of among us, this kind of idea where if you can give something, you probably should, and generosity is good. And even your psychologists are saying, generosity is actually a good. Well, he's a perfectly healthy man, and so he just donated a kidney to a stranger. He took another living donor off the transplant list and took their place, and donated a kidney to this person. And radically generous, right? Now, then there may be selfish reasons. I don't know. I haven't been around this man in many years, but I was sort of taken aback, right? We just had this conversation this weekend about time and good deeds, right? And I'm seeing money and good deeds, right? And I see this person who in many ways gave of both, right? Who doesn't even profess belief in Jesus, and am immediately challenged of like, nah, please, whoever's listening, hear that I'm not saying in order to be a believer, you got to start giving away organs. Nobody's saying that, okay? But just the idea of that is a radical generosity.
Yeah.
A radical time and treasures generosity of like, I can make a difference, so I will make a difference. That I'm processing like emotionally and spiritually going like, man, is there this similar thing, right? It doesn't have to be organ donation. It doesn't have to be a life of poverty, right? It isn't specifically that God is calling me to that I'm ignoring because I love something too much. That's where I'm trying to get to, right? When we fight that, when we get defensive, like you said, it is I'm in love with my time and I'm in love with my money. Like, is there something equivalent to that I'm ignoring?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
And do you guys know anybody who just gave away organs? Like,
no.
Yeah, I don't either. This is kind of wild.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, we it's hard to know the state of someone's heart when they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Your behavior doesn't always reflect what's going on in your heart. That's what occurred to me as you were speaking. I know like Bill Gates, you probably read recently, he's giving away all of his money, and he's going to die broke or whatever his version of broke might be.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on in his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's he's trying to do a good thing. But I don't know what his heart's like. See, it may not be, giving out of your abundance like that may not be much of a sacrifice. For
Yeah.
him,
Or may not feel like much of a sacrifice.
or feel
Right.
like one. Right. So that's the difficult part, is what is the state of your heart? What is the motivation for what you do?
Because you can do good things for selfish reasons.
For selfish reasons. And we are people of mixed motives for sure.
Yep.
So we do things where we're kind of like, it's about me, but it's also about them. And
when I die, make sure you write on my headstone, I did this really good thing.
Yep.
I did this good thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't pay attention to the last 65 years of that.
Yeah.
No, ignore that. Just this one really good thing.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's good.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you would encourage our listeners with, or any last notes?
The only thing I would say is just be honest.
Yeah.
Just be radically honest with yourself.
Yep.
If not with anybody else, be honest with yourself. God will show you where your heart might be off.
Yeah.
And you just trust him.
Yeah.
We just trust that God knows better than we do.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I would add to that, just be willing to lean outside your comfort zone a little bit, whether that is the amount that you're comfortable with giving away, whether that's the time that you're willing to spend helping someone else, or whether it's even something that you're like, hey, I think I could help this way, but I'm not sure if I'd actually be very good at it.
Yeah.
Lean outside your comfort zone. Have a conversation with the team leader for, guest services or something. Maybe you
Yeah.
don't think you're the most personable person, but you think you could hold a door, that's an option.
Yep.
We can,
And
and we can
smile.
help you out.
Yeah.
Yep. Even if your smile feels a little pasted on for those first couple of hours, it can still make a difference in
Exactly.
people's lives. Yeah. But that's
Sure
it.
can.
Sweet. And then the last challenge, I think you mentioned it at all three, but we're jumping into 2 Timothy. So I would challenge everybody to just go ahead and jump in and read ahead and see kind of where we're going. So hope you guys have a good week, and we'll see you guys Sunday. Bye.